and to Brussels, where this week European officials are looking to the future. Well, they've been discussing how Europe can catch up with the US and China in the great artificial intelligence race. But they've also been grappling with the ethics of placing more and more of our lives in the hands of technology. Artificial intelligence. Hear the phrase and you probably think of this. But AI is no longer confined to science fiction books. It's in our everyday lives, from internet searches that learn from you and then make targeted suggestions to home-assisted devices like Alexa, which talk to their users and predict their needs. And there's probably no better example than self-driving cars. No highway code in sight here. AI technology allows them to navigate traffic while carefree passengers catch up on their emails. Artificial intelligence is rapidly changing the world around us, and that's just the beginning. And as Europe tries to get in on the action, a question you'll hear asked more and more: how much trust should we place in smart technology? Well, back with me in the studio is Fabrice Potier from the Transatlantic Commission on Election Integrity. And also joining us for this panel is Madi Delvaux, a Luxembourgish MEP who sits with the Alliance of Socialists and Democrats here at the Parliament. And also joining us, Fanny Hidvegi from Access Now, an organization working on human rights in the digital age. Now, she's also a member of the high-level expert group on AI for the European Commission. All right, let's start with the concept of AI. First of all, is there consensus here that AI is the future? Is this where we are going?
I suppose that, well, AI is already in our daily life, and it will increasingly be in our jobs, in our private life, in communication. But I just come from a discussion on ethics in artificial intelligence, but the problem is that nobody can define artificial intelligence.
Why is that? So nobody can define what it is?
It is because it's a big variety of products, of application, of devices. So it's commonly, I would say, it's making things more clever.
More intelligent in that it anticipates what human beings need, perhaps. Is that how we can define it?
I think the point is that there's no agreed upon technical definition, but we have a very good understanding of what AI covers. It's more a range of things and technology than one specific aspect. And the video captured it quite well. The main point is that the system is learning and adapting and changing.
I mean, that can only be positive. I was just looking at some positives of what it can do. So it can make cancer treatment less toxic. Machines can take over dangerous jobs, or it can anticipate our needs and reduce energy consumption. Obviously, there are the downsides as well. Facial recognition. I think you have been campaigning for more regulation on it. But why?
I try to campaign for ethical principles and for regulation, because I think if we want really to decide how we want to interact with artificial intelligence, there are some principles that we have to respect, and we have to protect also citizens and not look only at the opportunities. Of course, there are great opportunities, but also prevent or try to minimize the risk for the humans about liability, about safety, about privacy.
But if I may, I think here the real question is what kind of European model we want to create. Do we want Europe to be a global AI power, or do we want Europe to end up being a global AI follower? And what kind of regulation can square the circle between our privacy, which is obviously very important, but also our competitiveness at the global level? Because what we are facing are two giants, China and the US. We don't want either of their models, but we need to come up with something that doesn't strangle competitiveness and innovation.
Yes,
I'm just worried, if I may, I'm just worried that the EU is putting the carts before the horses, the regulation before the real AI industry has emerged from Europe. So I think we need
because
to
Europe is way behind in terms of the actual technology.
It is de facto behind because of basically we don't have the scale.
But the point is, I think, that the EU must be the thought leader on artificial intelligence, but it matters how. And Access Now has been advocating very strongly that the EU is in a very good place, both on to have the responsibility as well, not just
so you're talking
the
about
option.
Ethical artificial intelligence?
No, not at all. That's missing the point. Ethics has a role, but only after the enforcement of human rights and other legal standards. It's good to talk about ethics, but the basics has to be to look at what existing legislations and human rights frameworks we already have in place. And after that, once we've done that, ethics comes on top.
Okay, so why is the EU talking about ethical artificial intelligence, and why is this the route that they want to take? Okay,
I think the concern is that it gets out of control because AI, by essence, is self-learning machines or agents who will not only do things but decide on what things to do for us. And there's the Frankenstein.
So isn't that why regulation is needed?
Yes, also because it relies very much on crunching our private data. And the more data you give to these agents, the more they're able to see patterns.
And I just wanted to add that GDPR was considered as an obstacle to innovation, and now the world is looking at the European Union.
This is the EU law on data protection and privacy.
Data protection, and even big American industrials say, well, we need a regulation like the European protection.
Yes, but I think the real thing is that the one who will write the global regulation on AI will be the one who will have the biggest industry. And for the moment, China is writing the rules de facto. So I think the EU needs to wake up on the need to have a real capacity,
so that's
not
why
just rules.
I am campaigning, for instance, for international standards, and I think the European Union should speak with one voice and defend our interests, our industry, because we are still good at certain points.
Just one point is that there are already international standards in place, at least from the human rights framework, and that's why we say that ethics can only come as a complementary part. And it's interesting to look at all the EU national member state level strategies. We compare them to each other, and there's not a lot of conversations about the societal impact that we're talking about. There's a lot of talks about investment on the other hand.
I mean, it's nice to talk about this, but this is something you brought up. In fact, it's a killer robot. It's already out there. I think you said it was too late already to rein this back in. So if technology is moving that...
I didn't say anything about killer robots.
So if it is moving that fast, I mean, if killer robots, as they call it, weapons, are moving that fast, so is it too late?
But anyway,
for example,
weapons are there to
weapons,
kill. We didn't in our report, we didn't touch on weapons because it's about security.
And weapons is the tip of the iceberg.
Because
it's a lifestyle.
Our look is went to civil use. What is our interactions in normal
Instead of killer robots, we should talk about the technologies when it decides on how you get a loan or how predictive policing is already in place.
And China has that in place.
Not just China. There are European countries that are looking into pilot projects and piloting also facial recognition, CCTV cameras, which have very serious discrimination
Wouldn't that make life easier on the other side of the argument? Wouldn't that help us make decisions?
I think us Europeans care a great deal about our privacy and our sense of our data about ourselves. We should be the first to make decisions about what we want and how we want. So I think it's about transparency rather than interdicting technology.
And this is also about non-discrimination, because if the algorithm or the model makes a decision and you are discriminated because of the city where you live or your gender or your race, and this is a discrimination. Well, there is also discrimination with humans, but at least you need to check and to protest. There is a need to have, as you say, transparency, and the people who program all these algorithms, they have to be accountable.
So let's leave artificial intelligence there for the moment, and